I had 3 jobs. None of them knew about the others. By day, I was a loyal employee. By night, I was a quiet architect of my own freedom. I built systems, automated everything, made myself invisible. It was perfect, until one slip exposed me. Suddenly, meetings felt colder, smiles turned sharper, and a coworker I trusted. He was watching me for weeks. They didn't just want to fire me. They wanted to erase me. But they forgot one thing. I never play fair when cornered. You want to know what happens when a company betrays the wrong man? Stick around. I didn't just fight back. I rewrote the rules. I woke up before the sun. Again. The house was quiet. Just the soft hum of my monitor and the occasional rustle from my daughter's bedroom down the hall. Coffee in one hand, task list in the other. I fired up 3 machines. Job 1 was expecting a product roadmap update. Job 2 needed a back-end patch rolled out before lunch. And Job 3 had an early morning client call. I had exactly 3 hours before any of them noticed I was also somewhere else. Automation was my secret weapon. I'd written scripts that monitored Slack for keywords, scheduled fake mouse movements, even simulated keystrokes. The illusion of presence. It had worked for almost 2 years. The money was good, enough to keep my mom's treatment going, cover the mortgage, and still buy my daughter the art supplies she loved. I wasn't greedy. I was just trying to survive. Between meetings, I squeezed in a math lesson with my daughter at the kitchen table. Her hair still messy from sleep. She giggled when I turned coding functions into fairy tale monsters. My wife placed a warm bowl of oatmeal next to my keyboard, kissed my shoulder, then returned to folding laundry. She never asked questions. Maybe she didn't want to know how I made it all work. At 2:14 p.m., a company-wide email from Job 1 dropped into my inbox. New performance integrity system launching this week. I froze. It was a tracking AI, monitoring active windows, screen time, typing rhythm, even idle patterns, all under the banner of transparency and trust. I reread the email 3 times, trying to find a loophole. There wasn't one. I spent the next 2 hours rewriting my scripts, testing ways to fool the system. But it was smarter than I expected. Too many variables, too little time. The tension crept into my voice during a check-in with Job 2. I snapped at a junior dev for missing a semicolon. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. But the work wasn't done. It never was. Later that night, while debugging a function from Job 3, I noticed a notification on my personal Gmail. An anonymous message. No subject. Just one line. "You're getting too good at this. Watch your back." I stared at it, heart pounding. Was it a joke? A warning? A threat? I checked the IP. It was masked. Disposable account. No way to trace it. I shut down everything, stared into the dim reflection of my screen, and for the first time in months, I felt cold. The next morning, I made my first real mistake. It happened so fast. I was preparing a report for Job 2, client-side security logs. I copied the folder into a zip file, drafted an email, hit send. Except I sent it to a mailing list at Job 1. A public one. The wrong one. I realized it instantly. My pulse exploded. I yanked the message back through the company's retract system, but the damage was done. The log file had already been viewed, time-stamped, archived. It was an internal document, yes, but it clearly referenced clients from a completely different company. I stared at the blinking cursor, waiting for a Slack message, a call, anything. Instead, I got silence. Until lunchtime. I stepped into the kitchen, trying to fake normalcy. My wife handed me a sandwich. "You look pale," she said. I forced a smile. Just tired. But inside, I was spiraling. That wasn't a small slip. It was a fireable offense. At 3 p.m., Alexis, someone from Job 1, a fellow developer, pinged me privately. "Check your email, but don't panic." The message read, "Mistakes happen. I've deleted the attachment. Next time, double check." Then a follow-up ping. "We're not that different, you and I." I didn't know how to respond. Relief battled suspicion in my chest. Alexis had seen the file. She could have reported me, but she didn't. Why? I closed my eyes and saw my daughter's drawing pinned beside my desk. It was a sketch of me, sitting at the computer, surrounded by clocks. She'd written, "My daddy lives in the future." That night, she fell asleep at the table waiting for me. I came out of my office to find her curled up, crayon in hand, coloring my face. She'd drawn me with no mouth. I didn't have the heart to wake her. The next morning, Tyler, new guy, fresh out of grad school, always too polite, sent me a message. "Big day, huh? HR wants to talk." I paused. "Why?" He replied with a smiley face. "Guess they'll tell you at 10. At 9:58, a calendar invite appeared. Meeting with HR. Topic: confidentiality and productivity violation. The HR rep didn't even pretend to soften the blow. She spoke in corporate gloss, words like misalignment, concerns, and integrity expectations. But the document on the screen said it all. Voluntary termination agreement. Sign it, and they'd forgo legal action. Refuse, and the company would pursue next steps. Next steps meant lawsuits. I stared at the screen for too long. My ears rang. She leaned in slightly, like she expected gratitude. "This is your opportunity to leave quietly, Ethan. We're giving you that chance." I didn't speak. My hands shook, but I kept them off camera. When the call ended, I just sat there, blinking. My inbox pinged with the document. It was real. That night, I told my wife. She didn't ask why. She didn't yell. She sat down on the floor of our kitchen, her back against the cabinet, and cried into her sleeves. "What do we do now?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer. The next morning, I canceled all meetings. No scripts, no code. I grabbed my daughter's tiny hand and walked her to the park. She asked questions like, "Do trees talk to each other?" And "What if clouds could fall?" I nodded, laughed, let the sun warm my face. I hadn't done this in 8 months. I'd forgotten how air without stress felt. That afternoon, back at my desk, I dug. I cross-referenced every calendar invite and internal message from the past month. One name kept reappearing, Tyler. He'd been looped into HR threads weeks before I even got flagged. His name was embedded in audit trails. He was the one who asked IT to monitor team inconsistencies. The more I looked, the clearer it became. He'd orchestrated this. And the final blow? His access permissions were elevated, approved by the CEO. That wasn't just oversight. That was sponsorship. The betrayal hit colder than I expected. I had helped him debug his onboarding scripts. I'd vouched for him in meetings. He used my trust as his cover. I closed the tabs and stared at the termination agreement again. Signing it would make this disappear. No headlines, no drama. I'd still have jobs 2 and 3. We'd be okay. But something in me snapped. I opened a browser and went dark. Proxy chain. VPN. An onion-layered tunnel to the underbelly of the internet. I created a username, Reclaimer01. The forum was quiet, almost eerie. Just code snippets, encrypted threads, stories like mine. They called it Overemployed Underground. I posted, Senior Dev, multiple jobs, facing forced resignation, internal sabotage, seeking options. Within minutes, replies flooded in. One stood out. They picked the wrong scapegoat. Document everything. Watch who's watching you. The next phase began. I spent nights digging through logs. Tyler's scripts, once hidden, were buried in monitoring layers. I modified my system, reversed the tracking to report his anomalies instead. I created a data illusion. Ethan, loyal and hardworking. Tyler, erratic and non-compliant. If the AI believed it, so would the management layer reading its dashboards. I created a subroutine called Rewind. It disguised itself as a timestamp normalizer, but beneath it, it archived every access Tyler made under my name. Every false flag, every misattributed entry. All of it. My wife noticed the change. She didn't say anything at first, but one evening, she brought me tea, sat beside me on the floor, and took my hand. Her eyes were tired, but clear. "You're not giving up," she said. I didn't answer. I just squeezed her hand back. It was the first time in weeks she reached for me. Then, the unexpected twist came. A developer from Job 2, Colin, messaged me out of the blue. We'd barely spoken outside of sprint meetings. He sent a zipped audio file, no explanation. I ran it through a cleaner. The voices were unmistakable. Tyler, he's almost out. One more nudge. CEO, make it stick. Ethan's a virus. We need him gone before the investors come in. I played it again. I'd suspected. But hearing it, undeniable, tactical, calculated, ignited something deep. I was no longer trying to survive. I was choosing to fight. I encrypted everything. Chat logs, code changes, system behavior reports, and that audio file. Packaged it under a single archive and uploaded it to a secure whistleblower Dropbox run by an independent tech ethics watchdog. No name, no fingerprints, just truth. I never wanted a war. All I wanted was space to breathe, to work, to live quietly and protect what mattered. But systems don't care about quiet men. And when they pick you as the villain, silence becomes complicity. After I submitted the whistleblower file, I didn't expect anything. But 3 days later, I received a private message through the same encrypted forum. "We read your story. You're not alone." The sender called themselves EthosNet, a collective of professionals, lawyers, ex-HR executives, ethical hackers, dedicated to exposing toxic corporate practices. Their mantra was simple: reveal without revenge, reform, not ruin. They had seen this pattern before. Overemployed employees scapegoated to hide bigger structural flaws. I joined quietly, not as a leader, not as a face, just another hand in the crowd, holding a flashlight in the dark. At night, I worked with EthosNet. During the day, I kept my head down, maintaining my roles in jobs 2 and 3. But my routines had changed. I documented everything, not just for myself, but for the pattern, the method, the machine. One quiet evening, after my daughter went to bed, I opened a new tab and wrote, "I used to think I was cheating the system, but then I saw what the system does to people who don't bend far enough. I used to be afraid I was wrong, until I met others who lost everything for doing nothing." I hit publish. It was my first blog post under the alias Reclaimers01. By morning, it had over 3,000 shares across Reddit, Twitter, and even a subreddit called RR Work Reform. Then the news came. Alexis, the developer who'd once quietly deleted my mistake, was fired. No explanation, no public call-out, just gone. A mutual connection told me it was for suspicion of insider collusion. No proof, just proximity to me. I stared at her name in our old chats. She'd saved me, and now she was erased for it. EthosNet advised caution, but I knew what I had. A full cache of Tyler's system abuse, his unauthorized access, doctored reports. All of it could bring him down. But if I leaked it raw, Alexis would be caught in the fallout. Her login was linked to several of Tyler's back-end requests. He'd piggybacked off her permissions. Justice? Or protection? I hovered over the folder. My hand trembled. That night, an anonymous message popped up on my private channel. Say the word. We'll burn their systems clean. The sender's name? Raven. No intro, no signature, just a blinking cursor. I didn't reply. The next morning, my daughter gave me a gift, wrapped in a cereal box, taped with pink ribbon. Open it, Daddy. Inside was a tiny notebook. On the cover, she had written in crayon, Daddy's best ideas. Every page was blank. I left it empty, she said proudly, because you're going to think of something really good soon. I held it like it was made of glass. That night, I opened my laptop. Raven's message still sat there. Want help? Just say yes. I typed, no. Then, I'm not here to destroy. I'm here to reveal. And closed the chat. The next day, a story broke on techethics.org. Employee tracks systemic harassment at major tech firm. It was vague, anonymous, carefully written by EthosNet's editorial team. But it had teeth. Enough to start questions, enough to make HR departments sweat. Later that week, I got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was grizzled, tired, but sharp. You don't know me, he said, but I used to be CEO of a firm just like yours. Got torched by a whistleblower 10 years ago. Deserved it. Been trying to make up for it ever since. He paused. Then, you're doing it right. If you ever want a funder for this movement, call me. We're launching a campaign. Hashtags already trending. Human before worker. I didn't answer right away, but I wrote down his number. The next morning, something shifted. Tyler posted a message in the company Slack, pinned to every department channel. There is a saboteur among us. Someone is leaking. Management is watching. Simple, cryptic, intentionally chilling. My stomach nodded. He didn't know it was me. Yet. But the hunt had begun. I uploaded the file at 3:17 a.m. No signature. No traceable metadata. Just raw, time-stamped truth. Screen recordings. Audio logs. Back-end reports. And the conversation between Tyler and the CEO. The Dropbox link was routed through 5 proxy layers and sent to 4 independent tech journalism sites, plus 2 anonymous whistleblower forums. Then I closed the lid of my laptop and walked away. By 10 a.m., it had exploded. My wife showed me the headline first. Leaked files expose systemic manipulation at leading tech firm. Below it, a side-by-side timeline showing the launch of Job 1's productivity AI and the quiet terminations that followed. Within hours, the company's name trended on every major platform. Public outcry surged. Investors panicked. Job 1 stock plummeted by 37% in a single afternoon. I didn't speak to anyone that day. Instead, I sat on the porch with my mother. She rocked slowly in her chair, her breathing soft and even, a blanket draped across her legs. The sky was clear, almost disrespectfully peaceful. You think they'll believe you now? She asked. I watched a squirrel scurry across the power line. No, I said, but I don't need them to. She looked at me, eyebrows raised. I just need my daughter to know her dad did the right thing, I said. The next morning, Tyler held a press conference. He stood before the cameras with a smirk carefully molded into professionalism. This is an orchestrated attempt by a disgruntled employee, he said. We're cooperating fully with investigators and will not tolerate sabotage. He didn't say my name, but the eyes in the room knew where to look. By afternoon, another crack formed. An anonymous internal account on the company's Slack dropped a new file, this time detailing how Tyler had accessed financial dashboards and adjusted forecasts days before a critical investor pitch. Someone else had kept receipts. The company's legal department tried to contain it, but by then, it was out of their hands. Tyler's father, one of the firm's primary investors, tried to stage a power play, pushing to install a new CEO and clean the slate. But the board pushed back. The scandal was radioactive now. No one wanted to be the face of it. At 4:42 p.m., the official statement came. Effective immediately, the CEO is stepping down. We have initiated an independent third-party audit. I was sitting at the dinner table when my wife read it aloud. For the first time I couldn't even remember how long. I didn't have my laptop open beside me. My daughter giggled at her mashed potatoes. My wife poured a second glass of wine, and nobody mentioned productivity, AI, or Tyler. We were just a family again. But calm never lasts long in stories like mine. 2 days later, another twist dropped. Tyler wasn't just fired. He was indicted. Formal charges, data manipulation, breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to mislead investors. But the net was cast wider than expected. 3 developers, all on the same Slack channel, were also suspended. The company was trying to clean house, fast. One of those names stopped me cold. Eric, quiet guy, back-end specialist. We'd never been close, but I remembered him sharing a joke during late-night deployments. The look in his eyes back then had been tired, but kind. EthosNet reached out immediately. They're sweeping too broadly, one rep messaged me. They need a scapegoat, and you can stop that. I didn't respond right away. That night, I stared at the case file sent by the lawyers. My name was listed as a potential witness. They wanted me to testify. My logs, my data, my knowledge of the back-end timelines could clear Eric or seal his fate. Innocent until proven guilty. That's how it should be. But the burden was now mine. The hearing was set for Friday. As I walked into the courtroom, I felt the weight of every silent moment I'd endured over the past year. Every lie I let slide. Every nod I gave when I should have spoken. The room was cool, clinical. I adjusted the collar of my shirt. The judge sat stiffly, eyes scanning papers. Tyler was on the far right, pale and sullen, his lawyer whispering furiously in his ear. Then I saw her. Alexis. She sat in the 3rd row, just behind the gallery. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just looked at me, steady, unflinching. I nodded once. Then stepped forward to speak. I told the truth. Not all of it, just enough. When the prosecutor asked if I had access to additional logs implicating more staff, I said yes. When he asked if I intended to provide them, I said no. I'm not here to burn what's already ash, I said. Some people made mistakes because they were scared. That doesn't make them evil. My words rippled. The courtroom murmured. The judge called for order. And just like that, Eric walked free. Outside, reporters swarmed. I kept my head down, declined every interview. I didn't want applause. I just wanted to go home. That night, sitting on the porch again, my wife came out quietly and wrapped her arms around me. No speeches. No, I told you so. Just warmth, just stillness. I miss this version of you, she whispered, the one who remembers to rest. I held her tighter than I had in months. The next morning, my testimony transcript was everywhere. Not because of the evidence, but because of what I said. We don't need more perfect employees. We need people who are allowed to break, to rest, to be human. The quote went viral. Designers printed it on posters. Activists turned it into banners. A new hashtag started climbing. Edry, human, before worker. Emails poured in. Most were thank you notes from strangers. A few were threats from anonymous accounts. One was an official letter from an international tech ethics committee. I'd been nominated for their annual award. I didn't even read past the first paragraph before closing it. I wasn't doing this for medals. Later that week, my wife found the email in the trash. She raised an eyebrow. "You're turning this down?" "I just want to disappear for a while," I said. She smiled. "Then start with the dishes." That evening, as I washed plates under warm water, I found peace in the clink of ceramic and the hum of a home that had gone too long without real silence. Then came the unexpected offer. An email. No subject line. Just a logo embedded in the signature. An olive branch inside a digital circuit. It was from Lumotech, a nonprofit tech incubator advocating ethical design. Their message was simple. We're rebuilding. We need someone who's been through the fire and didn't become ash. Will you help us shape something better? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I spent a week doing nothing but being a father. Morning walks to school, lunches at home, bedtime stories that didn't trail off because I was checking Slack on my phone. I was present for the first time in a long time. Eventually, I replied with one sentence. "Let's talk." But I never returned to the spotlight. Instead, I became a quiet mentor, anonymous behind the scenes, joining private forums and encrypted servers where engineers whispered about burnout, unfair practices, exploitative contracts. I didn't solve their problems. I just helped them ask the right questions. Sometimes, that was enough. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail, hand-drawn in pencil. My daughter's school had hosted Career Week, and she had volunteered to present about my job. Her teacher included a note. She said, "My daddy doesn't just write code. He fixes justice when it breaks." I had to sit down. That night, I didn't open my laptop. I didn't write code. I just listened to her stories, to my wife's laughter, to the sound of the world moving without needing me to carry it. Then, another email arrived. It was from a company I hadn't heard from in years, one that once rejected my application with the note, "Not adaptable enough." Subject line, "Help us rebuild." No pitch deck, no preamble, just a simple acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, I had something worth listening to. I didn't want to step back in, not into the politics, the posturing, the headlines. But something about the way Lumotech approached it felt different. They didn't offer power, they offered transparency. So I said yes, but on one condition. Total transparency, I told them. No hidden stakeholders, no investor vetoes. If I find out there's manipulation behind the curtain, I walk. They agreed. My first project wasn't a product. It was a principle. We called it Fair Work AI, a platform built to audit the ethical environment of workplaces using anonymized employee feedback, operational metrics, and culture trend analysis. No productivity scores, no surveillance tools, just truth, as told by those doing the work. We launched in beta quietly. Within weeks, word spread. Companies applied to be evaluated voluntarily. Some passed, most didn't. And when they failed, we didn't shame them. We helped them understand why. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One day, a young startup we'd certified as high integrity made headlines. They'd just signed a huge contract with a national retailer, one that Job 1 used to hold exclusively. I scrolled through the article, breath catching slightly when I saw the name of the startup system, Nova Core. It was based on a public AI framework I'd released 2 years ago. They'd built on top of my old code, refined it, polished it, made it better. I wasn't angry. I was proud. It meant what I built had outlived me, evolved without me, found a new life in better hands. The next morning, I walked my daughter to school. No phone, no laptop in my bag, no mental checklist ticking away in the back of my mind. She held my hand the whole way, humming some tune I didn't recognize. When we reached her classroom door, she turned to me and said, "You're not working today." "I am," I smiled. "Just differently." Before she stepped inside, she looked up again. "Then can you pick me up too?" "I'll be there," I said. Later that afternoon, I sat in my home office, not to code, not to check Slack, but to think. If we could redesign work, I wondered, where would we start? Maybe by acknowledging that work is part of life, not life itself. Maybe by recognizing that dignity isn't a bonus, it's a baseline. Maybe by remembering that tired isn't the same as lazy. That silence doesn't mean apathy. That trust, real trust, can't be tracked. The phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Ethan." I knew the voice instantly, the CEO from Job 1. His tone wasn't bitter or apologetic, just tired. "I won't pretend to be sorry," he said. "But I will say this. I was wrong about you. And I need help. Things are falling apart faster than we can rebuild." I didn't interrupt. I need someone who understands how people think, not just how they work. There was a pause. He was waiting for a pitch, a demand, a plea. I gave him none of it. Just one sentence. "Watch what we build without you." And I hung up. Weeks passed. I kept mentoring, kept writing, quietly. Until one evening, I noticed my daughter huddled with a few classmates in our backyard. They had notebooks, markers, and a cardboard sign that read, "Protect Students Club." I watched from the window as she assigned roles, talked about boundaries, and explained why no one should feel unsafe, even in school. Later, I asked where she got the idea. She shrugged. "You protect workers. I protect kids." I laughed harder than I had in months. That night, I finished the final chapter of my manuscript, a book I'd started in the chaos, never intending to publish, only to understand. I titled it The Invisible Worker. And on the dedication page, I wrote, "For my daughter, who sees what others don't." The next morning, as I stepped outside with my coffee, I saw my neighbor reading a printed copy of one of my early blog posts in the local paper. He looked up, smiled, and nodded. I nodded back. No fireworks, no awards, just quiet acknowledgement. The world hadn't changed overnight. But it was different now. Not because I fought, because I told the truth.